Is Jacinta Mpali and Kana, and in this talk this week I'll be sharing with you some insights about my take on the relationship between God and what we assign to emotions. And I'll be sharing with you some facts because I founded these insights on some facts that I borrowed from the Bible, religious facts, metaphysical and spiritual facts. To begin, it's been known that God is everything and in everything as everything. And why is that? You see, everything that you create, let's imagine that you paint a picture or you mold a cup or you make a car or whatever you create. Whatever you create, you leave your creative essence, that creative force in the product that you've produced, in your creation. So your creation will always have that essence of you in it, even if you sell it. As long as it's got that life, as long as it's still usable, unusable, it will always have your essence. Which also implies that because God created us, He left His essence in us. So we live with God's essence, with His creative force in us. And so when we go ahead to create, then we transfer some of that creative essence to the things that we create. And because God created everything that we see and don't see, the stones and the iron and metals and minerals, that also means that there is God's creative force and essence in all these things. Which brought me to the conclusion that God is everything, in everything, as everything. Now there are few implications to this notion. Implication number one. Everything that is something is God, as I explained. Even nothing is a definition that defines something, so it's God. Therefore, nothing is still also God. Besides, that's where God dwells and starts the spark of creation. From nothing, remember? He starts from nothing to create the galaxies and everything that we see and don't see. Implication number two. Every thought, emotion, or external experience that we name becomes something. You see, naming things or titling things creates a link between ourselves and the things that we have defined, which also creates a recognizable relationship between us and what we've defined. And what does this mean? For instance, if you decide to title or assign worry to a negative emotion, you've automatically created a relationship with it, with the emotion, with the worry. And when you remember that everything is God and God is everything, so when you focus on worry, an emotion that you've defined, you have taken on, accepted, and believed that the worry is your new something, which temporarily replaces God. I guess that's why they say in the Bible that do not worship other gods. My interpretation of that is that if you start focusing on things, the some things that you other than good or God, then you're replacing or worshipping the small gods, which is not good and which is not God. So when you focus on the worry, guess what happens? You have temporarily replaced God, as I indicated. So worry becomes your new little God. And because everything we call God is creative, then your worry starts creating the same of itself in the place of good or God. So we have to be very, very careful about what we assign our emotions, because we don't only create relationships with these emotions, but when we start focusing on the emotions, we are literally worshiping them. We are investing and putting out a lot of energy, giving in a lot of energy to these emotions, and that's literally worshiping. We are praising, negatively praising these emotions. So this is the solution. This is just an insightful solution. You could take it or leave it. Every time you feel worried, or what you call worry, every time you feel that uncomfortable emotion or feeling, instead of jumping to assign it a name, or a name that you don't even have evidence that clearly reflects on the emotion, just think about it as null and void. Null and void. Mentally repeat in your mind that this is null and void. Now, this implies that you've named the emotion as null and void. Void means nothing, okay? And remember what I said earlier, that even nothing is a definition that defines something, so it's God. So when you say null and void, you've gone back to voidness, to zero, to the foundation of all things, to creation, which is also good because then you're empty. And when you're empty, this is when you can choose what you create, or God can dwell in that emptiness to create a new reality for you. I guess that's why they say that seek first the kingdom of heaven and everything will fall in hand. Be still and know that I'm God. Meaning that when you're still, you detach from all emotions and everything. You become absolutely empty. You become null and void in your mind. There is nothing going on in your mind. And as a result, you get back to zero, to the void, to the nothingness, which then starts to create a new reality and a better reality for your experiences. Therefore, every time you start feeling something uncomfortable, instead of titling it or assigning it a name as worry, stress, or whatever, just repeat within yourself, null and void. Nullify it. Take it back to the void. And it will not only make you feel better, but you will realize that you are in control. You're on top of that emotion, and so you can define it. Now, if you have any more questions or insights about my insights, if you have any questions or comments or whatever if you want to share, or if you think that my talk can help anyone, please share the link with your friends and family. And if you have any other questions, please send me an email at the email I'm going to leave at this at the link below, or simply leave your comments below. And in the interim, I'm sending you God's love and light.